Hello and welcome everybody to this very special XTB event. My name is Wali Kudmani, Market Analyst for XTB. And I'm very happy to announce today's event. Obviously, some of you may be aware of what we're going to be talking about today, but I'll do a quick recap. Initially, I'd like to welcome everybody for joining us. It's going to be packed with information that will help you obviously navigate the markets and information that will be useful to you. We were supposed to have two speakers. Unfortunately, one of them will not be able to join us, but don't worry, we leave you in good company here with VP of No Nonsense Forex, who is going to be discussing how to trade oil in times of uncertainty, giving us his point of view on the markets, not just oil, but other markets as well, his experience and his expertise. A few points, obviously, to mention. He will be talking about some of the topics such as why is our need for oil so high? Will the price of oil keep rallying? How can I start trading oil? So if you have any of these questions and many more, feel free to watch today's very important webinar. You will be able to receive a recording as well in case you miss anything. Feel free to ask questions and engage with our speaker. They are here to help you as well. And as always, it's a pleasure to have such names in our events and contributing to our wealth of knowledge here at XTB. And that's all we're all about, is informing you the most, helping you become the best trader you can be. And that's partly today's event as well. So but without further ado, as I said, we will only be having one speaker who will be discussing mainly and primarily oil, but other markets as well. VP of No Nonsense Forex. Thank you very much for being here with us today. I'd like to welcome you to our event and hopefully the first of many more to come. Thank you for being here with us. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit for people who might not be too aware of who you are and what you're going to be discussing today? And I'll leave you to your webinar. Thanks again for being here with us, of course.
Oh, no, thank you, Waleed. So for those who don't know me, my name, well, I go by VP on the interwebs, and I'm a professional Forex prop trader. It means that I passed a long, arduous test, and now I don't have to trade my own money anymore. I get to trade other people's, namely a large firm, and I've been doing that ever since 2014. Then the reason I became really who I am and the reason everybody knows me is from YouTube. I now have the second or third largest Forex YouTube channel on YouTube, and that happened in a pretty short amount of time. So safe to say my method works pretty well. We've turned a lot of people into prop traders as well, which is something no other channel was doing at the time. Now, after a while, you know, there's only so much to talk about when it comes to trading. So we've shifted into investing now because I take my same contrarian approach to investing as I do trading. And it's done really well. So I also have a new podcast, which you can also find on YouTube, called the 10-Minute Contrarian. And that's where we go over, you know, a lot of different investments that most people aren't looking at. So therefore, we get to get in quite early. So it's nice. We're having a lot of fun with it. But yeah, so it's trading and investing. And oil is my absolute number one favorite thing to trade. So I was really happy to share this with you. So let's get into it. Quick disclaimer. This is XTB's disclaimer, but I will add one too. I am not a financial advisor. I tell people do not do anything I say. Consult with a financial advisor first. This is for educational and entertainment purposes only. I will also be sharing my geopolitical views on things. I'll say it right now. If you are an investor, especially in this space, having a strong political bias does not serve you. You know, you need to see things the way they are. But still, things still are what they are, and we'll talk about that soon. But just know, you know, I don't want to make this overly political. This is really about making money through investing and trading. So let's talk about how this is going to get set up. So in this video, talk about why oil is so important. It's very fashionable right now to vilify oil. It always kind of has been, but recently it's gotten really popular, and really nobody ever asked themselves why. But just understand how important oil is to the actual fabric of our lives and how it's responsible for the way we live the way we do, and how that should not end anytime soon. But it could, because the world leaders maybe have their hearts in the right place, but they don't always have their heads in the right place. Safe to say, really, no matter who's in charge of governments, you can count on one thing, and that is they will screw it up somehow. But we can profit off of that. Traders and investors both can benefit from what is going on right now. And that's really the important part. There's nothing we can do about this, but we can do something about this, and we should. So we're going to hit pretty heavy on the investment side, but we're also going to talk about how to trade it. That's the main reason why a lot of you are here. I understand that, but it's going to be really hard to take 40 minutes of time just simply talking about trading oil. I would have to water down this talk a lot. So we need to talk about the investment into things too, because when we're in a time like this, if we are correct and if we do it right, we can make a lot of money simply off of a couple investments that will actually be greater than what we ever could as a trader year over year. We should always trade because it's great. We get to make money on the way up and on the way down. It's the best thing in the world. But when you have a really great opportunity to make a lot of money in one commodity that we're all pretty sure is going to go up, and I'll give the reasons why, it's silly not to take advantage of that too. In the end, we all want to make money. That's the number one reason why we're here. So we will talk about all of that. But let's take a little step back first. I don't think people really realize how important oil is. They just see it as this yucky black stuff that comes out of the ground and smells funny when you burn it. It's super important. It is energy. We need energy to do literally everything. Unless we want to go back to an agrarian society, we should be very grateful for oil. But if we didn't have it, I couldn't be talking to you right now. This wouldn't be possible. If you look at the energy oil creates and all of the daughter products made from oil and petroleum, our lives, we would probably be somewhere like we were in the 1950s or 1960s right now, living that way if it wasn't for oil. On top of that, the population went from the world population went from 1.6 billion in 1900 to 7.7 billion in 2019. Unheard of. Why did that happen? I would say oil and probably fertilizer were the two big reasons why that occurred. Now you can say that's a good thing or a bad thing, but many of us would not be here if it wasn't for what oil has been able to do for society. So let's not poo-poo it right away. But we can't also ignore the fact that it is dirty. It just is. It always has been. But understand what it replaced at the time. We were burning wood and animal dung before that. So it was actually less dirty than that at the time. So we got to give it a little bit of credit here. And all that natural gas that everybody is so reliant on right now that heats everybody's homes doesn't happen without oil and coal. That's where your natural gas comes from. So you can't just say, oh, I want to get rid of dirty, yucky oil and coal, but I need my natural gas. It doesn't work that way. You need lots of oil and lots of coal to produce the nat gas that heats your homes and charges pretty much your entire life. So don't ever forget that either. But yeah, it does. I mean, the drilling aspect, processing, burning of it, it does pollute. And if it goes unchecked, it can get out of control. So it is a problem. It would be nice to transition out of it. But man, when you leave it in the hands of governments, boy, do they mess it up. They just do. And when you mess something like this up, like the energy that powers the entire planet, really dire consequences can come out of it. So first of all, in the past year, we've had major pipeline shutdowns. Now, why did we just up and shut down the oil? Because the people who did it want votes. And in their minds, there are enough people out there that think oil is so gross and dirty that by doing things like this, they can stay in power longer, which is really all people in government ever want to do. It's a great, lucrative job. Who wouldn't, right? But once things get really bad, and I think they will, all the people who think oil is yucky and dirty are going to have a change of heart once the lights go out. So I think this is really going to backfire. But President Biden closed down the largest pipeline in North America. for that reason. And he hasn't even been in office for a year. But after 1 year already, we're seeing major repercussions from decisions like this. And then when ESG investing came in, that was pretty much the nail in the coffin. So for those that don't know, right around 2017 is when this got really popular, when all those climate change reports came out. ESG stands for environmental social governance. There are multi-trillions of dollars in this sector already, and it's only about 5 years old. Now, did people just wake up one day and start caring deeply about the environment and green technology? No, they're just trying to make money. And really, there's not a whole lot of money in the social and governance aspects, but there's a ton of money here. And so that money went out of the oil sector and into the green technology sector. So for the first time in our lifetimes, the oil sector not only had a bunch of their stuff shut down, but had less money to work with and were forced to shut down oil wells. That's a problem because you can't just turn those wells back on overnight. Let me get some water. So we're in a bind right now, and it happened in a very short amount of time. But you guys know, especially over there in Europe, we're already seeing the consequences. You know, we're not seeing it so much, in the States, but I can only imagine what they're trying to blame it on over there. But this is it right here. Make no mistake. Huge, huge mistakes were made in a very short amount of time. And I don't think it's getting better. I really don't. I think it's going to be a long time before this corrects itself. One, for the reasons we just spoke about here. Two, these world governments all got together and decided to make this change. No matter how bad things get, they're not going to all come out and say, hey, sorry, we made a huge mistake. They never do that. Being in government means you get to make the worst decisions on the planet and then never have to come out and say you're sorry. Must be really nice, right? And they're not going to. A lot of times, instead of changing the bad decision they made, they usually just double down and make it worse. So I expect that to happen for a while, even while people are freezing to death in some of these places because of the lack of natural gas they are able to get access to. So it's really unfortunate. But I don't know if you've heard the saying, the same word for crisis in Mandarin Chinese is also the same word for opportunity. And if we can't do anything about this, and we can at least profit off of it and make sure we can protect ourselves and our families. That's really all we can do. We can't just let it go by the wayside. So we have to understand, too, they're really trying to transition over to solar and wind, especially in Europe, a place that is not what happened to me in record time was pretty awful because they made a big mistake. It was so bad, especially like in Germany, for example, they had to go back to coal. You think oil pollutes. Holy cow. Coal's worse. But at the end of the day, you have to keep the lights on. Necessity trumps narrative every time. And we are already seeing it in record amounts of time. It's pretty crazy. But demand is also going up. People don't understand this. We've already said supply is screwed. So supply is going down hard. Even if demand did nothing, it would still be a great time to invest in oil. But demand with all this green technology is going up too. All those fuel grids that people want us to run off of take copious amounts of oil and natural gas to run. They left that part out, didn't they? Yeah, I wonder why. So not only is supply plummeting, demand is also going up too. In basic economics, you know what that means. But even the future supply is in huge trouble because of all the mistakes we have made before. Just, as a United States citizen, I can tell you, with the shale revolution that we had, we were able to frack and get much more gas out of the ground. Oil and gas both. So it was so good. We pretty much told OPEC and China that we didn't need them for anything anymore. We were able to take ourselves completely out of the Middle East because of that. And in less than 1 year, we have undone all of it. President Biden has gone to OPEC now, hat in hand, like a beggar, and saying, can you please make adjustments so we can get some more oil out of you? You know, all that work we did to become independent and not have to rely on other people, other countries that really aren't always the nicest countries to deal with. You know, we pretty much forfeited all of that. So it's coming our way too, but it's hitting you guys now. And I don't like seeing it. I have family and friends over in the UK and Europe, and it just sucks. And I think we're only seeing the beginning of it. But that's going to make oil prices go up. Nat gas prices have gone crazy, but oil usually lags behind, which is good. That provides an opportunity for us. So, to add fuel to the fire, this is 3 or 4 days ago on my Twitter, and I didn't cut and paste these together. This is just boom, 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 one right after the other. This right here is disturbing. I don't think we've ever had to do this before, but we've had to dig into our own reserves. You know, the United States, who has Canada right next door, who has a ton of oil as well. You know, we've always been energy independent for the longest time. That's why we grew the way we did. One of the biggest reasons why we became so prominent over time is because we never had to rely on other people for energy. And if we did, we always struck a deal. You know how that whole thing works. But it's different now. It's so bad. We have to dig into our own reserves. You know, what's going to happen when those are gone? And Kyle Bass, who is pretty biased, but also pretty brilliant at the same time, hates China. So just understand where he's coming from on that. But he is an energy expert, and he's saying it himself, get ready for explosively higher oil. This guy, despite his biases, is rarely wrong. I've been following him and listening to him for a while now. So, you know, it's not just me saying this. It's people who are way smarter and way deeper in the industry than me. And it's also facts. You know, if you don't want to rely on opinions, you know, just look at the facts. It's happening. So position yourselves accordingly. Now, how do we do that? Well, it's a little bit different in the States than it is in Europe. I realize that. I have a very global audience, and they remind me all the time. But the easiest way is to find ways to invest in just the simple oil price itself. Whether you're doing West Texas or Brent crude, really makes no difference. If you zoom out, they pretty much move in tandem with each other, despite some minor differences. But that's a question I get a lot. But this is certainly the easiest way because it's the easiest one to track. If you want a little more of a leveraged play, you go into oil services. So more of your oil stocks, your carriers, things like that, processors. Now, understand when Biden does something like close an oil pipeline down, it can make this go up, but it can really screw over these guys. So you're not really always going to see this move in tandem with this. So don't get frustrated. A lot of times it takes a bit longer for these to really see their big move up over time. So I just want to throw that out there because that's going to be something you're going to encounter if you are an oil investor. You know, things aren't always going to make sense, but you just have to be, you know, a bit more patient when you can. Now, in the United States, we have a plethora of ETFs, exchange traded funds. They're great because it's a basket of stocks, or it's something that you can use to invest in the price of oil without CFDs. We can't use CFDs in the United States, so we use ETFs. But ETFs are really nice, and you do have some options over here on the London Stock Exchange especially. They're not as many, but they are there. So do your research and look them up. You do have options, but you can also just invest in the stocks themselves. You know, so there's a lot of different ways you can go on the investment side. But without telling you everything that goes on my giant YouTube channel in one talk, the one thing I can really say above anything, and I want everybody to pay attention here because you're not going to want to do this when it's time. But when you invest, before you invest, I want you to say to yourself, okay, when the price of the thing I'm investing in hits a certain point, I'm going to take my initial investment off the table, or I'm going to take half of my initial investment off the table and take some profit. This is where everybody messes up. This is where traders mess up. This is where investors mess up. They don't do this. I mean, be meticulous with it. Put it down in a spreadsheet, write it down on a piece of paper, and make yourself do it. Because let's say that, the price of oil goes from 80 to 100 in 2 weeks. You're not going to want to take profit. It's on fire. But that's exactly what you are supposed to do as an investor. You're not supposed to take, you're not supposed to take money off the table when it's plummeting. That's the opposite. That's what most people do, and that's why they lose. This right here, if you get the money and trade management part right, it's really, really hard to lose. It's like alchemy. Like I can't explain it. You just have to, once you get a disciplined take profit system in place that is adjustable to whatever it is you're trading or investing in, which we really focus hard on my YouTube channel, it's really hard to lose. It's almost just a matter of how much you're going to win at that point. So I just want to throw that part in there, because I know once you're in it and once emotions start getting high and once things really start moving, this is going to be the last thing you want to do. But it is absolutely essential. But just understand too, oil is also very inflationary. Oil stocks are the number one thing that goes up in an inflationary environment, historically. But we can also, because of inflation, have huge deflationary events, and that's going to affect oil as well. You guys remember when the futures price of oil went negative overnight? It was nuts. The actual price of a barrel of oil did not, but the futures contracts did, and that was a big panic moment. People who were long oil got wrecked in a very short amount of time. Put a stop loss somewhere so you don't get wrecked. If that stop loss gets hit and price keeps dropping, fine. Wait for your charts to tell you when to come back in and get in at a lower price and start the process over again. Assuming you're as bullish on oil as I am, or even half as bullish on oil as I am long term. These are the things I want you to remember. All right, so that's from the investment side. Now let's move to the reason why most of you are here, the trading side. Let me take some water again. Oh, people have no idea how often I start and stop on my YouTube channel. I never need water, but when I'm talking all at once, I certainly do. What we do in the Forex world translates almost everywhere. And one of the biggest reasons why we do well in Forex is we don't sit there and try and call tops and bottoms. You want to be a trend trader, because if you look at the price of oil, especially on a longer term chart, and you zoom out, and we're going to do that in a moment, you can see how much this thing trends. It trends beautifully. And I could not imagine missing out on those big, beautiful, lucrative trends because I'm sitting there trying to call tops and bottoms. One of the biggest mistakes you can make. And it's tough because so many people start out that way and they get frustrated, but they don't want to change. But that's what my channel is all about, is taking those bad habits that make you pretty much like everybody else who doesn't make it either, and almost doing the opposite. But once you get there, it's great. But especially in oil, guys, you want to be a trend trader here. But I will say this too. I mean, not trading oil is a giant mistake. So I'm a trend trader. I trade 36 currency pairs: gold, silver, platinum, palladium, indices, and oil. And out of all those things, oil has been my number one performing instrument for the last 4 years. It just has. And I think when we go to the charts, you're going to kind of understand why. But I could not imagine not participating in this market and forfeiting the gains I have made on oil since I have been trading it. It's been tremendous. And there's no guarantee it's going to stay that way. Past performance is not indicative of future results. But you can, if you're playing the odds, you're like, you know what? If you look at the reason why this thing moves and how it moves, it's probably going to continue doing that for a while. I would have a really hard time understanding how we get into a choppy market in oil, especially with everything going on right now. It's going to move. It's going to move up a lot. It's going to move down a lot. And you're going to want to be there as a trader when it does. But here's the thing here too. And again, this is where I'm in the minority, but once I can get you over here, you will thank me for the rest of your life. I have given so many traders their lives back by telling them to trade on a daily or even a weekly chart in the when it comes to things like oil. But the daily chart for sure is an absolute must here. For starters, if you love technical analysis, understand that all of your technical analysis, no matter what it is, works better on a longer time frame. And of all the work I've done and all the tests I've run, the daily chart came out on top. Not only that, it gives you your life back. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I first learned how to trade Forex, for example, every example showed me like a 15-minute or a 1 hour or even a 5-minute chart. So in my mind, I thought, oh, okay, well, this is just how it's done. So I spent my entire day wasted staring at charts, trading, and going crazy. And I'm like, this is not the life I signed up for. This shouldn't be a job. And it starts out fun, but over time, if you keep doing it that way, it starts to be a job. You know, this should be able to fit into everybody's schedule. You should be able to have a regular job and still trade at a very high level. And you can do that. You can actually trade at a higher level simply by making this change. And even if you really, truly don't want to do that, that's fine. What I would say is at least trade oil that way. Do your trading like you normally do. And at the very end of the trading day, or at the very end of the trading week, check in, see if your charts are telling you to do anything, make the move, and it takes you all of 30 seconds. You know, this fits into everybody's schedule. There's no excuse for it. But I've seen people try to trade oil intraday, and it's really messy. All of these great things I just got done talking about really don't apply unless you do it this way. So let's see what that looks like. I'll go to the charts right now. Okay, so let's go to oil. Now, this is a weekly chart, so I could really give you kind of a 4-year look. And this was good. This wasn't great, but it didn't tear us apart either. I'll show you the chart price action that really tears us apart. But this was amazing. I was in a short for this. This was right when the COVID news came out and everything started going negative. And that was probably the best actual trade I think I've made my entire career, because I also got out right down here. And then it gave us another great opportunity, retracement, great opportunity. Like, this thing just does nothing but give us great opportunities as traders to make money if you are doing it the right way. Now, I put this on the weekly chart because as an American, I kind of have to trade oil on the weekly chart with ETFs because we don't have CFDs. And if you do it on the daily, those ETF fees kind of eat into you. So I traded on the weekly, and I have no regrets. It's been tremendous. I see no reason to trade it on a higher time frame. But you can see as a trend trader how well this thing has treated you. And even if you got a little chewed up right here, it doesn't matter. You would have made it back and then some with moves like this. This is exactly what you want. Big moves with relatively small retracements that you can exit your position and then re-enter again. This is what you want. Now you compare that with gold, which I also like trading, but not quite as good. It was good for a while, came down a bit, and then recently it hasn't given you a lot of great opportunity. Now, I don't have a huge recency bias. I'm like, oh, screw it, I'm not going to trade gold anymore. I have a pretty good feeling it's going to trend again, probably to the upside. So I continue to trade it because I don't want to miss out on those trends. I'll take a little bit of losses here and there. But you compare that to the way that oil has just done nothing, especially in the last few years, but give us so many returns. It's why I kind of rank it ahead of gold right now. But for all of you Forex traders out there, compare it to the euro dollar. Sure, it's been good recently in spots, but it absolutely destroyed so many trend traders for about 2 years, just chewed them up and spit them out. And we know if the euro USD is not doing very good, much of the Forex market's not doing very good either. So on pretty much every dollar pair, save a few of them. You had this futility. This is exactly what we don't want. And you're like, oh, well, it got really good afterwards. Well, who cares? Most people had stopped trading by that time anyway because it was so bad. I'm glad to see it's good now. Much of the Forex market is rebounding slowly. Nature is healing. But if you compare this to oil, there just isn't a comparison. It's so much better. So trade Forex. I trade, like I said, I trade 36 pairs. I trade it all the time, every single day. But do not sleep on oil. So we did that. So general trading tips overall. I kind of want to leave you with this. I don't want to put too much into the talk. I want to leave time for questions, and I don't want to throw too much information at you. But some other general tips that I can share. If you use ETFs, I don't know if you have options for leveraged ETFs over there, but if you ever see them, avoid them. They look like really good ideas until you use them and you wonder why you're not getting the returns you thought you would get. It's a big no-no. Like I said, I don't know what you have over there, but these things make a lot of money in the United States, so I can imagine they're going to come your way eventually. Avoid. Just use the regular ETFs. And here's the thing, too, and I get a lot of flack for this, but when it comes to trading, you don't have to track fundamentals. You don't need to stay on top of the story. It really doesn't serve you. A lot of times fundamental analysis is really just there to misguide you because even if these events happen, you don't know how significant they're going to be. You don't know if they're priced in already. And most importantly, you don't know when the impact of these fundamentals are going to take place. Right now, the price of oil has been pretty much dropping for the last 4 weeks. There's no reason for it to do that. All the fundamentals are really, really bullish, especially long term. But that's not where price is going. So if you just have good charts and you can train yourself to ignore this right here, the better off you're going to be. Again, money management is everything. You could almost just flip coins and just go long or short depending on what the coin says if you get the money management part right. Scale out at a certain point, and when that happens, move your stop loss to where you bought it or where you sold it. So at this point, you can only win. The only question now is how much are you going to win? It's a simple thing that almost nobody does because it takes some of the excitement out of it because you're cutting into your gains a little bit. But it really, I say it all the time on the channel. We win by not losing. We cut our losses down tremendously and we mitigate the losses we take. And what that does to your bottom line overall, like I said, is magical. So make sure you're doing things like this. And if you want to know more, and if you want to know how I do all of this, like I said, I have a whole built out YouTube channel and website that tells you exactly how to do everything we just talked about and how to put together a really great technical analysis system that also gets you in and out at the best times. One of my biggest contributions to the trading game was how I kind of redid the whole technical analysis system to where pretty much for 25 years, there was only one way to do things. There are variations on that one way, but it was all price action, support and resistance lines, trend lines, Fibonacci, maybe a couple, indicators that were 40 years old, like the RSI and stochastics and things like that. Doesn't have to be that way. There are modern day tools that were created for modern day markets by very talented people, and nobody's using them, but we use them. And I show you how to put them together on the channel. So if you do want to know more, or if you're just curious, or if you just want to hate on me all day, here is where you're going to go. No Nonsense Forex is a channel on YouTube, if you don't already know. But if you've never seen my material before, what I suggest you do is go to my website. On the homepage, I pretty much kind of read the riot act and I tell you, exactly what we're about. And then I have the beginner's video embedded on that page. The one thing I didn't do a great job of when I put this channel together was put it in a real proper order. So that beginner's video, even if you've been trading for 20 years, watch that video because it tells you the order you should go in. because I don't want to put this whole great curriculum together and still end up getting people confused because they didn't get the order right. So that would be what I would say would be the first step in starting your journey on the no-nonsense Forex way of trading. For what it's worth, while I'm here, I also have a book. I wrote a book on trading psychology, which, in my opinion, is every bit as important as money management, probably more so, because you can have the best trading system, you can have the best money management disciplinary system, and you can still find a way to screw it up. Many, many people do, because we simply cannot get out of our own way. Emotions are very, very high when we see our own money move up and down, and it causes us to make really bad decisions. So what's great about this book is I actually lay about 18 different specific scenarios that you either have already encountered or will encounter, and we identify what they are. And then I tell you what you should do, because you're always going to have those dilemmas come up. Should I do this or this? That book allows you to consult those very situations and have an answer right in front of you that you can always go to. Because you guys know as well as I do how much this thing scrambles your brain sometimes. To be able to get that part down, along with the money management side of things, there is no limit to what you can do. And again, if you guys are more interested in the investment side, check out the 10-Minute Contrarian. It also broadcasts on YouTube, so you can just watch it that way. But if you have a particular podcast player that you like, you should be able to find it on there as well. So thank you, everybody. Sorry we only had one speaker, but I hope I was able to make up for that and at least keep you interested and bring this whole wonderful oil sector to you and show you that you really shouldn't be passing this opportunity by. The best time to start is right now. The second best time to start was yesterday. Best time to start is right now. So get started. And if you have any questions, I have my whole channel right there to answer them for you. Simply go to my channel and just type in the search box, what you want to know, and it should be there. But the best thing I think you can do if you want, and if you're not getting the trading results you're hoping for, check my channel out. Understand that there is an alternative out there. And love me or hate me, understand I'm always on your side at the end of the day. And I put that together for you. But either way, thank you for listening. We're at the 35-minute mark. That should allow some good time for questions. And go ahead, fire away. Guys, I'm done. If you got questions, let me know. How do you deal with, I'm going to say that's bad trades? I don't worry about them. Like I said, I'm a professional trader. I've been doing so for over 7 years now. And I have had more bad trades than I can count. Now, by bad, I mean losing trades. None of my trades are bad because I'm following my system. I'm following a system that I've tested and has been proven to work in the past, present, and probably will into the future. So there really are no bad trades. There's just losing trades at this point in my career. And yeah, they don't bother me at all. For every bad trade, I know there's going to be a big trend coming up right around the corner, and I want to be a part of that. But I will say, if you're early in your career and you're making, and if you feel like you have entered a trade that you probably shouldn't have entered and you took a big loss, you need to examine why that was. Like I said, put it into a spreadsheet, because the reason why you entered that bad trade is probably going to come up again. And like I said, you're really going to want a reference to go back to and say, hey, I'm having these urges again. How do I deal with it? You don't want to make the same mistake twice. But a lot of traders do that. Are there any more questions? No more. Okay. Well, I guess I've covered things pretty well. Thanks again, everybody. You can go ahead and turn me off now, and I hope to see you down the road.